Hey, beautiful people, it's Ron Johnson, and this is Locked On Sports Minnesota. It's a beautiful Friday, finally. Sun's out, birds are chirping, worms, stay asleep. It's not good for you out there. But for those that were up early, because we know the early bird gets the worms, I'm not even put this in the topic. I don't know if you guys saw, we'll talk about it. That's why I'm wearing this. Also got a FaceTime from PJ Fleck last night. Saw the uniforms, though. They are nice. We'll talk about a little bit of that, but we got to get locked in on these topics. I'm Ron Johnson. We got Reggie Wilson joining us from Care 11. We got Julia Daniels from Care 11 as well. And we got Sam Ekstrom, our executive producer, who does it all. This is Locked On Sports Minnesota, a partner with Tegna. And this is the Friday Roundtable. You are about to experience fast-paced, fun topics, but we also are going to really hit hard on some of the serious stuff. The Timberwolves, what's going on with them? The Gophers, Vikings, Twins, Lynx, Caitlin Clark. I mean, there's so much we could talk about right now, but let's get locked in on these topics. What you got for us, Reggie?
Yeah, Timberwolves, things just picked up. They added a player, but he's not going to be on the court. We're talking about a billionaire, one of the richest people in the world.
And the Twins and the Yankees. A tragic tale, almost as old as me. Why can't they beat the Yanks? We're going to talk about it.
Justin Jefferson made a lot of money earlier this week, not as much as Michael Bloomberg, but we'll talk about whether he can sustain his level of excellence through the end of that deal.
Yeah, and I got a chance to visit out there with Michael Bloomberg. Justin Jefferson definitely has some room to go, but hey, maybe he'll get that Bloomberg report and try to up that 100 million and make it 2 and 2 to 4 and 4 to 8. And that's how you become a billionaire. But we have to talk about minicamp because I got a chance. Like I was standing out at minicamp and I'll tell the story, but I'll just put it like this. I got a text message from Roy Williams from the Cowboys, sent me a picture. And then all of a sudden somebody walks up on me and I'm like, whoa, what in the, and then the person is, I mean, you talk about, I forgot what that's called. One of those magic tricks, but you're talking about a person in the picture, then ended up next to you. I'll tell you, it was a weird experience, but then it threw me completely off. But we have to talk about training camp because there's some other things that happen on the field that I was like, this team might actually win 11 games. We'll talk about all that and much more coming up next on the Roundtable. But I want everybody to know today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. But remember, terms apply. $20 off your first purchase. Just download the Game Time app. Use the code Locked On. That's LOCKEDON. Well, now it's time for the program to start. We're starting with you, Sam. Take it away.
You got it. I woke up earlier this week to the glorious news that Justin Jefferson has signed his extension. And it's glorious on a number of fronts. He stays in Minnesota for the next 5 years. But also, we get to stop talking about how he's leaving us. All the speculation got boring to me. But the question that I now want to pose is, okay, he's signed this big deal. So often in Minnesota sports, once guys sign the big deal, we turn on them. Our expectation gets too high, gets unrealistic. If anything goes wrong, we get embittered toward them for some reason. And I'm wondering if Justin Jefferson is going to keep this level of excellence through the end of that contract in 2028 when he will be 29 years old. And I did some number crunching, guys. Get this. If Justin Jefferson maintains his current rate of production, which is 98 yards per game, and he does that for 5 more years, it is not out of the realm of possibility that when this contract is done, Justin Jefferson will be lumped with the likes of Randy Moss, Isaac Bruce, Tony Gonzalez, Terrell Owens, Larry Fitz, and Jerry Rice, all who have over 15,000 yards in their career. Yes, Justin Jefferson could be one of the top 10 all-time leading receivers in NFL history before he turns 30 years old. That's if he sustains this level of production. So can he do it? I think he can if he stays healthy. I don't think anything about the physical nature or the talent of Justin Jefferson is going to wane. I think it's only going to get better. The question is will his body hold up for the duration? We finally saw him suffer an injury last year, have to battle through that How is he going to hold up the next 5 years under immense pressure, immense attention received in the form of double teams? It's going to be fascinating to watch how he manages now the fame, the money, the attention, being the face of the franchise for the next 5 years. I think that if anyone can do it, Justin Jefferson can do it.
I guess I'll go next. I
Ron
don't
was
think
muted.
yeah, I don't
Sorry
think
about that.
I don't think anything will change. I think Jefferson will continue to produce at a high level, and I think he will just continue to stack these numbers. The one thing that I wonder about is the quarterback situation.
Hmm.
Is Sam Darnold going to be the guy? Is JJ McCarthy going to supplant him? Like, I'm just very interested to see what the quarterback situation looks like. Justin Jefferson was asked, like, hey, did you think about the quarterback situation before you signed the deal? And he was like, no, it doesn't matter who's throwing me the ball. I think I'm going to be able to, produce. And that's great. It's great to hear. But, I look at a situation like last year with the Jets. Garrett Wilson was supposed to have this breakout season with Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers goes down. And Garrett Wilson just kind of has an okay year with Zach Wilson at the helm. And so, like, that's all great. That's great. But if there's not a guy who can consistently deliver him the football, it's gonna hurt some things. But I think as far as what Jefferson can do skill-wise, he's gonna go down as one of the top receivers to ever play this game and continue to dominate while he's on the field. Just can he find a guy? Can McCarthy, the QB of the future, be the guy that can consistently give him the football so that he can continue to stack these numbers?
Julia.
To me, I think it's the right fit for both sides. I think in Justin Jefferson, on and off the field, you've got a stand-up guy who's going to give you his 110% all the time. Obviously, injury is the main thing that would be a concern of whether he's playing the same at 29 or not. I think the work ethic that he has and the mindset that he has to be the best, because he didn't come in, he's kind of been an underdog his entire life, which I think has helped the mentality that he's had. But I also think on the other side of things, like he says, I don't care who the quarterback is, I'm going to go up and get the ball. But you also have Kevin O'Connell as your head coach, who works very closely with his quarterbacks. And obviously last year was kind of a fluke because of Kirk's injury and this, that, and the other. And even then, Justin Jefferson put up numbers with his injury. But I think it's not so much of a concern like it was with the Jets. I think that this organization is very invested in having a quarterback that performs at a high level. So I think that Justin Jefferson doesn't necessarily have to worry about it as much as maybe somebody else would in a different organization. So yeah, I think 100% he will go down with legends. And I think that he'll be playing, should he not suffer some horrid injury, he'll be playing the same way when he's 29.
Well, for me, I agree with all you guys on that. I think like we're acting like at 2028, he's going to be in his 40s. He's still young, and I think that's the key. And Sam, you know this. We've had Jordan Reed on from ESPN a bunch, and he always talks about age, being drafted at 20, being drafted at 21, so that you play through that first 3 or 4 years, and you're only 24 or 25. You get that second contract, you're only 28 or 29. That's Justin Jefferson. He's only going to be, what is he going to be in 2028? 27, I think, or 2028?
I think he's going to be 29 because he's almost 25 now. So
he'll be turning, he'll be turning 29. And so your question is, can he maintain? Yes. And here's the reason why. If you look at Justin Jefferson in that season, I'm looking at Randy Moss, right? So Randy Moss in New England in 2007, he came into the league in 98. So 9 years later, in 2007, 10 seasons later, but 9 years later, Randy Moss put up one of the best seasons of his life. Best 90, but considerably. Like he had 111 catches, 106 catches, but he had 98 catches. He had 160 targets, though. 160 targets on 15 1,100 yards. It was one of the best seasons of his career. And we know the touchdowns, 23 freaking touchdowns. So can Justin Jefferson do it? Yes, because if you look at the way he trains, similar to Randy Moss, you look at the way technically, hopefully, his quarterback will be at that situation. Not saying, don't put me up there for preposterous. I'm not saying his quarterback's going to be Tom Brady by then, but he should have a very well-learned quarterback who knows this offense by 2028 as well. So yes, my answer, very simple, is yes, because I went to the man himself, Randy Moss. If we're comparing Justin Jefferson to Randy Moss and the trajectory, Randy Moss was still doing it at a high level. Randy Moss really didn't fall off until that last year when he got hurt. And then, of course, he bounced around Tennessee, San Francisco, and then he came back to the Vikings. So that was really the only time where you kind of looked at games played were really low. Wasn't fully healthy, wasn't the Moss we know. But I don't know if you guys saw recently, somebody said, who's a player that played for a team that you can't believe he played for that team? The tweet was Randy Moss, and Randy Moss actually retweeted it and put comments above it, naming the people that maybe either screwed it up or got him there. I'm not sure. But in 16 games with the San Francisco 49ers, which was last season, 2012, he only had 26 catches for 434 yards and 3 touchdowns. But one of those touchdowns was an absolute Moss moment, like a hitch. It was like a hitch return, and he went out, took it to the house, like showed the speed at that age. I mean, come on now, people. So yes, Justin Jefferson can still do it at a high level. It's totally worth the money. But we got to talk about training camp. And I'm not going to bury the lead. We're going to move on to training camp. And so I saw Justin Jefferson. Looks great. I joked, I think, with you, Sam, about when Justin Jefferson put him in a bubble. And that's exactly what happened. When Justin Jefferson goes up for a catch, everybody ducks and covers. Like, you are supposed to do that. Please get out the way if my man's catching the ball in the air. Now, if he's on the ground, normal catch, fine. You can stick your arm out. But if he goes up, just get out the way. And they are smart. They're doing it. I appreciate that. I think Kevin O'Connell appreciates that. The Wilfs appreciate that. All of Minnesota appreciates that, to the Minnesota Vikings defensive backs. And Brian Flores for making that conversation with his guys. We don't have an Xavier Rose, Stephon Diggs situation where there's going to be a fight. But here's where I go with this. I'm standing there. I get a text message from Roy Williams, former Cowboy. He sends me a picture, like Google Docs. He's dropping down his Google Docs. And there's all these old pictures from 2002. And I didn't even notice this. But as I'm looking at the pictures, because I'm joking with like Sam Newton, Vikings, communications guy, and Paul Allen, some other guys. And somebody like bumps me and is like, oh, man, that's me and you. And I look, it's Josh McCown. I totally forgot that Josh McCown was here in Minnesota. And Sam and I know, like, we reached out to him before. I told him, hey, let's get you acclimated to the city, blah, blah. So we got that set. Josh McCown will be joining us on the Ron Johnson show. And so I'm excited about that. But my takeaway from training camp was talking to Josh. Like, we spend a little bit of time. We're going to dinner. I'm not going to say what city he lives in because I don't need people running up to his house. But he and I talked about that, getting out to dinner with the families. And the one thing he said, though, is he was so surprised at how many people came up to him talking about, oh, man, Sam Darnold can throw it, man. He can spin it. He's like, dude was a 3rd pick overall. He was in New York with him. He saw him come in as a rookie. And here's the bottom line. I'm not hating on any other coach that Sam Darnold's had, but you guys can Google those coaches and you can make your own thoughts about what happened to Sam Darnold with those teams he was on, especially the Jets. Adam Gase. I'm not saying any names, though. But he's never had a Kevin O'Connell. And so I'm very optimistic now, watching Kevin O'Connell, watching Josh McCown, watching how they interact with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold actually came over. He seemed light. He seemed happy. He seemed like he's having fun. And then I thought about it. I'm like, you're right. And Josh told me some other stuff about the offense that, I think, comes with training camp. But it's going to be very, very, very much open for Sam Darnold to be one of the best quarterbacks in the division. Like, he is going to have an opportunity to sling it around. He's going to get the same opportunities that Kevin O'Connell wanted to give to Josh Dobbs. Now he's going to go to Sam Darnold. And I think he's more than capable of doing it. So that was my takeaway. Like, I am very optimistic that these guys can win 11 games. I'll go to you next, Julia.
I was, when I was out there on Wednesday, a big thing that stood out to me was two things. A lot of the guys talked so much about, and I was talking to Cam Bynum and Jonathan Grenard, but also just some of the personnel that's out there that deals with the players and sends them around and is with them all the time. And they were talking about obviously they've had, and this is what I talked about on Wednesday night in my package, Reggie, was the personalities have been really good and everyone's meshed pretty well for the past 2 years in this under, Kwesi and Kevin. But this year in particular, they're very excited about the personalities that they have and how well everyone gets along, even more so than they have the past 2 years, which I think is really cool because they said there's so many young guys that have come in and really brought the energy. And specifically, they talk about Dallas Turner, not only his skill set, but just the personality that he brings to that group. Which I, of course, love as an Alabama alum. But also, I thought it was interesting when we were trying to get the guys coming off the field. We all wanted to talk to Jonathan Grenard, and he was like, yeah, in just a second, I'll come talk to you guys. And then the entire group of linebackers and then all these other guys go over and they do an entire ab workout after practice is over. And then after that, the entire D-line comes over and does the exact same thing. And that's something that Jonathan Grenard brought from Houston. So I think that it was really interesting to see, how he's taking on this leadership role in a new organization so early. I think that's a really good sign. And also you could see him out there working with Ivan Pace, just those two one-on-one, helping each other out. So I thought that was really interesting. But I think it's just, it seems to be, and I've only been out there for a day, but it seems to be a really solid balance of young guys and veterans helping each other out, balancing out personalities, and also just getting along really well, having a great time. Another thing that I noticed is Ivan Pace, I feel like he was so nervous last year when it came to media being on camera or anything like that. He has like a new confidence to him going into this second year, which is exciting because with what he did in year one, you can only really go up from there, I would say, for him. So I think it's exciting to see the confidence that he has just now in minicamp.
Yeah, I mean, you are right. At the CJ Ham celebrity softball tournament or game, he was very much one of the most vocal, most energetic players out there. And the one thing they told us as MC, do not give the players don't let them take the microphone because we don't know what they're going to do with the microphone when they go into the dugout or if they walk around the field with it. So they were very much like, do not and Ivan Pace comes over, he has a bat in his hand and he's got to say something. How am I saying no to this? So I handed it over. And I mean, and he had fun with it. He was very good. He wasn't great on the mic because he kept laughing, pulling away from his face because there was a lot of inside jokes. But he is one of those guys out there now, being the front of the guys. I mean, him and Blake Cashman are the Mike and the Mo when you look at the 3-4 setup. And so he's one of the guys now. He doesn't feel like I have to get out there. The very interesting thing about what you said, Juju, is I saw the same thing. I saw the workout after. And yeah, it's one of those things where all the guys gravitate to coming over and doing it. Everybody wants to come over there. There's jokes about it. It's laughter. Some guys are trying to get out of it without doing it. They're standing up all right, I did mine. And, guys are grabbing guys' legs, get on the ground and do them. That's what a defensive group in a unit becoming a team looks like. These guys really have, and I said that early on, I said that's that youthful movement that's going to be on that field. But Reggie, I know you were out there as well. I don't know if you saw this, Reggie, but the Vikings just posted J.J. McCarthy throwing an absolute dot yesterday. I was there for that one. It looked pretty nice. He threaded the needle. So we got our J.J. McCarthy, not to J.J., we got our J.J. McCarthy throw from the Viking socials. But what did you see since you've been out there?
That throw to Trent Sherfield was dynamite, baby. It was dynamite.
And Trent Sherfield claps to him. He got the toes in. He got the 2 feet in slow-mo. So I give him that.
Yeah, it was a nice pass that JJ rifled in there. I will say JJ looks like a rookie, which is to be expected at this point. And it's tough because you got all these great reports coming out of Chicago with Caleb Williams, who's clearly going to be the guy, and Jaden Daniels in Washington, D.C. I think was it Lou Riddick the other day said there hasn't been very many footballs to hit the ground, from that. But it's interesting because it's just mini camp. It's not training camp yet. So you kind of just wait and see. But I did think that it was interesting. JJ McCarthy seems firmly behind Darnold and even Nick Mullins right now. So I'm interested to see how this QB depth chart plays out as the summer rolls along, headed towards the season. I think it's been interesting watching like ESPN and all that, like and NFL Network, and everybody's posing this question like, can JJ McCarthy, find a way to start over Sam Darnold in week 1? And it's just like, I don't know. I don't even think that that's the expectation. So I don't really know where that conversation is coming from. There have been some times where, there have been some errant throws from JJ McCarthy, and it really seems like Sam Darnold is really making the most of his opportunity. Yes, the defense is something that seems like it's going to be a really good thing this year under Flo for year 2 with some of the pieces that they got. But obviously, everybody wants to talk about the quarterback situation, and so I'm interested to see how Darnold kind of keeps the rookie at bay and keeps Mullins at bay. Mullins knows the offense probably better than anybody else in the building other than Kevin O'Connell. So I'm interested to see as the time goes along, as camp gets going next month, how the quarterbacks battle and how Darnold kind of keeps the other quarterbacks at bay. But right now, he looks good. He looks clearly like the front runner in camp.
And Sam. Yep.
Yeah, 2 things that have stood out to me. Don't sleep on N'Keal Harry. We talked about this on the football party yesterday, and Ron weighed in on the change from wide receiver to tight end. And I remember last year when Harry was brought in, he was viewed as a cast-off, a bust, right? Former first-round pick who didn't work out. And then his first couple practices, he was unbelievable. He was diving, making grabs, catching everything. And I think that impressed the team enough to kind of keep him in the building. And now they've got this plan for him where he bulked up. He's going to play some tight end. And that tight end room obviously has a void without TJ Hawkinson. So I'm looking for anybody. Maybe it's Robert Tonyan, who the reports are very good about as well. N'Keal Harry, though, could be a guy that sees the field in the early season. And sometimes I've noticed when this coaching staff makes a dramatic move with a player, like Josh Metellus last year, for instance, kind of carving out that role for him, they have something in mind. They have a vision for it, and they want to see it come to fruition. So I'm watching N'Keal Harry very closely as a tight end wide receiver hybrid. And then secondly, why does nobody else in the league like Dalton Reisner? Like, he sits in free agency. People are like, yeah, no one wants to sign that guy. And then he comes to Minnesota again, and he gives the most delightful interviews. Like, he's so endearing. He's talking about his favorite restaurants. He's speaking right to my foodie heart. Why does no one want to sign this guy? I love Dalton Reisner. Give me more Dalton Reisner. I'm all in on him.
And when you think about this team as a whole, Sam, the other question I was going to ask you, though, because you guys asked me this, or Luke, I think, asked me this, because you're talking about all that. Am I wrong in thinking, and this is the question for everybody, before we get, we gotta talk about Michael Bloomberg and the Timberwolves. We got to talk about the Twins. But before we get to our sponsor, I do want to ask this, because I was asked this question. So I want to ask the group really quick, and tell me if I'm wrong. And I won't make you guys think too much. I'll give the answers. So offensive line, I feel like it's set. I think Reisner's the guard, and what's his name? Ingram's the guard. So you got your tackles, you got your center. I feel like at linebacker, you got Grenard, you got Ginkle, you got Ivan Pace, and you got Blake Cashman. That's pretty much set. You got Harrison Phillips in the interior. You got your quarterback pretty much set right now, the way the reports are reading, and from what I got from talking to Keenan McCardell and some other coaches yesterday. When you look at receiver, I mean, come on now. It's pretty much set. Is there any real position battles? Like, when we're going into training camp, I know N'Keal Harry is going to be fighting for a 3 spot, and I did get some great intel about him. But is there any, I mean, Dallas Turner, we know is going to work in. Is there any other position battles that we think could happen? I mean, kicker looks set, punter, long snapper. Is there any battles? And I'll go to you first, Reggie.
Yeah, I do think that that guard spot is going to be a little bit of a battle. They have talked up Blake Brandel quite a bit.
Which side, though? The Ingram side or both?
Good question.
No, not Ingram side, but the
Reisner
side that Reisner was taken last year. So I think it's interesting to see what's going to happen there, because Reisner's like, look, man, I'm pretty much in the same position as I was when I signed here last year. Like, I'm fighting for, a spot,
Mm.
and I'm doing whatever I need to do to, make an impact. And so I think it's interesting. They've been talking up Blake Brandel so much, and I'm interested to see how that battle, once camp gets going, between he and Reisner, who was the starter last year, how that plays out.
Julia.
That would be the number one that I would think. I do agree with you though, Sam. Dalton Reisner, what a great guy! Like,
Yeah,
he's so easy. Obviously you have to measure what they do on the field, but man, you can market a guy like that so well for this area. No, I would agree. And that's the only one I'm looking at, the depth chart. That's obviously, these things are, it's so early on, but that's the only one that stands out to me out of anything here. Is just that guard position. Everything else is pretty much, there's nothing where you're like, oh, maybe, I don't know.
Wide receiver 3.
Yeah, I guess.
I think. Okay, what about week 1 tight end though? Like, I don't think that Johnny Munt or Josh Oliver or Robert Tonyan are set. I think that's a true battle in my mind.
It all depends on how they use Josh Oliver too.
Well, so here's the thing though, Sam. Right, and that's what I was gonna say, Julia. You were about to hit the nail on the head. Talking to Josh McCown, when you look at the Y and the H, TJ Hawkinson, and what's his name? N'Keal Harry are the Ys, sorry. And you got Johnny Munt and what's his name? Oliver is the H's.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the thing. The only thing that might happen is Tonyan might become the Y during the TJ Hawkinson out, which is the Y is like I was a Y. That's your primary receiving tight end. He doesn't have to do too many strong side blocks. And then you're going to have your H, which is your beast, your big guy, can be the lead blocker and run game, blah, blah, whenever you go too tights. So I think I think you're right, Sam. It's who takes over for Hawkinson. I'm not saying it's a battle for who's going to be the guy. I think it's who takes over for Hawkinson, because they know Oliver's not going to be the Y.
Well, remember at the end of last year when they were, I think they were just doing some tricky stuff to try and throw some defenses off, but they threw to Josh Oliver like quite a bit towards the end there, because
you can throw to the H. I'm just saying
they targeted him more than they did when Hawk was healthy, obviously, which is why it's like it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I don't think they're gonna do that because he's a blocking tight end, but I just think it's definitely a fun thing.
No, yeah, you can throw to your H and your Y. If you think about like the Colts, Dallas Clark was a Y, Ben Utek was an H. Both are receiving tight ends, but it's just how you dictate them in the play calling. There's a lot. I'm not going to get into the weeds with play calling because Luke Braun would love this talk. So I'm not going to get into that. That's more of a Luke Braun thing. But breaking down the H and the Y, what it really means is one guy can split out Y more so than the other guy. One guy's always attached. One guy's a move guy. And so I think Robert Tonyan is fighting for that Hawkinson spot, to be in the slot, and then I think N'Keal Harry as well. I don't think they're going to put Josh Oliver in the slot and have Johnny Munt attached. And that's why I think it's kind of like, I think it is a battle, but I agree, Sam. N'Keal Harry, like he's a dark horse, because they said he's 245. They say if you think about Irv Smith, Irv played at 234. So N'Keal Harry is more than capable of doing it. How
tall is he?
About 6'2", 6'3". Okay. So, and Irv was only about 6'2". Unless you count his frosted tips. But
good old Irv.
But yeah, Irv was not a big tight end. So, and Dallas Clark was 6'1.5". So it's more so of, can you get it done, and are you physical enough to deal with going against linebackers? N'Keal Harry is bulked up. I think he is. It should be interesting. But we got to move on to Michael Bloomberg. This is something that I didn't have on my bingo card. I don't know if anybody else had. Billionaire joining the fight. But we'll do all that and much more. It reminds me of when the Avengers went out and got Tony Stark to come be a part of it. We don't really know if you can help us. You're a little bit arrogant, but you're a billionaire. So philanthropist. So let's get them in here. We'll do that and much more after a word from our sponsors.
Game Time brings us today's show, making NBA Finals tickets even more easier to attain. Now, even easier to attain. Got to get my grammar right there. Unfortunately, the NBA Finals are not occurring in Minneapolis, but if you are in the Dallas area, if you're in the Boston area, check out Game Time. Look at some great deals that get even more affordable the closer you get to tip off. And that applies not just to basketball, but to baseball as well. As the clock moves toward opening pitch, you want to get into Target Field for a really nice price. You can do that through Game Time. Maybe you can't watch the games like me. You want to go in person because you have Comcast at home. Yeah, Game Time is a great tool to use. They've got flash deals, zone deals, last minute deals, all in prices that show you exactly what you'll be paying up front. Views from your seat, nice panoramic to show you where you'll be sitting and the lowest price guarantee. Game Time simply takes the guesswork out of buying tickets, whether it's to the NBA Finals or a Twins game in June. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDON, Locked On College, actually the preferred promo code for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Well, it's time to talk about this. Michael Bloomberg joins the Timberwolves ownership group. I mean, what is going on? Take it away, people.
So that was a very random thing that happened. It was like, oh, okay. And what was funny was, people have been mocking the A-Rod Lori group, online, calling them like broke boys and all this stuff with the money thing. Glenn's like, look, they didn't have the money. So I said, forget the sale. And now they're going to arbitration, and we're going to see how that plays out. But it was interesting with Shams and my boy John Krasinski reporting yesterday that Bloomberg is agreeing to join the A-Rod Lori ownership group. It's like, you said we ain't got no money? Take that. 12th richest man in the world. Boom. And it was interesting. I had a really great conversation with John Krasinski yesterday. You can check that out on care11.com, care11 YouTube. If you want to. I thought it was a great conversation that was very insightful from John yesterday. And he was just talking about how now this kind of ups the ante, like, regardless of this arbitration, both sides feel like they are in good position to win. But obviously, A-Rod and Lori are very confident that they will come out on the right side of this. And if so, that's going to trigger so many different things. Number one, it's now in that situation where, Glenn at first was going to retain about 20% ownership stake in the Wolves. Now with Bloomberg joining the mix, Bloomberg is prepared, as Krasinski reported, to offer the $300 million or so needed to just go ahead and buy Glenn out all the way and give this Lori Rodriguez ownership group 100% ownership of the Wolves and Lynx. And so that's a very, very interesting situation now that they have kind of, as my family would say, Glenn has gotten his cookies cut with the A-Rod and Lori deal. They're like, look, that's it. We don't want anything to do with Glenn anymore. We're going to try to go ahead and buy all the rest of his ownership stake out of these franchises. And then also, they want to get a new stadium. They want to get a new arena done. And so that's going to allow them to have the type of financial backing with Michael Bloomberg to go ahead and get this thing going wherever they decide on the site. We've heard rumors of the near the farmers market, downtown Minneapolis. That was a rumored spot for the United as well back in 2015 before that fell through. So it's a prime real estate location. And also, number 3, it also triggers possible, breakaway from Bally as well, with the forming of a new sports network that could, involve the Wolves and Lynx, could involve the Wolves, Lynx, and Twins. The whole thing is just, kind of interesting to see. Maybe something similar to the Yes Network, which, some of the investors with the Lori Rodriguez group, they have a little bit of history with. So it's a very interesting situation. Obviously, it's moot if A-Rod and Mark Lori don't win their arbitration ruling this summer. But if they do, we can see some pretty big changes. But one thing Krasinski was saying that is very interesting is, we got that second apron tax bill coming with the luxury tax. Both sides seem to be positioning themselves to pay whatever that tax number is coming up next season to keep this team intact that went to the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, and with Bloomberg, and again, I'll be moving around because I was like, as I saw it, I'm like, I got a ton of stuff that I didn't even realize I got. I mean, this is a book from Michael Bloomberg, and we went out to New York when I was at Fordham, and we got to meet Bloomberg. We got to meet some of his staff members that work at his office. But one of his first chapter of this book is going after Goliath. So this is a guy that's about strategy. This is a guy who's willing to slay the giants. Like, this is a guy that's willing to come to the table and do what's necessary for change. And this is what Bloomberg is about. So it's very interesting because also Bloomberg is tied as well to Derek Jeter. Like, Derek Jeter has been in a lot of meetings when we were in New York with Bloomberg and with I forgot the other guys. I forgot the Capital Investment Group that we got to meet with. But I'm guessing that's how A-Rod got the connection, because I'm pretty sure he might have reached out to somebody that knows Jeter or even Jeter himself. And then he probably said, hey, hit up Bloomberg, man. Like, he's been wanting to get involved in sports. And so here we are. We are in the precipice of being considered one of the most liquid programs in the NBA. But Sam, Julia, when you think about all this, does this really mean it's done, or is this like the fight's now just started between billionaires? But I'll go to you, Julia.
I think when you somehow make yourself worth $100 billion, over $100 billion, usually a little something about a little something. I don't think that Bloomberg would be joining this group if he didn't think they had a solid case in arbitration. I just don't think it would happen. To me, this whole thing, Wolves fans, this is a win-win, right? I love this tweet that I saw from Dane Moore yesterday that said both sides of the ownership groups are screaming, I'll pay the luxury tax, and no, I'll pay it for longer. So it's just like, okay, at this point, it doesn't really, the outcome doesn't particularly matter for Wolves fans because somebody's willing to pay either way. And that's kind of the main part of it is that now you have billionaires fighting over your team. What more do you want? But I do think that it's interesting to see such a huge player in the game come and join A-Rod and Lori. I think it's very telling about, he's not going to just do that on a whim. He's definitely done his research in that, and he clearly thinks they have a strong case. So I think it maybe gives us more of an inkling that they are going to win arbitration. And Bloomberg probably has some connections to the NBA governors, and so that would go smoothly as well, so that they could become official owners and that kind of thing. But overall, it's a win-win for Wolves fans. But I do think that it's very telling that he joined the group for sure.
Yeah, it's a good point by Julia about the Board of Governors. There was some speculation in our text thread yesterday that this really isn't going to impact the arbitration or the court proceedings because this is a new development, right? The arbitration is evaluating whether the contract was breached months ago. So this is something that's posturing the Lori A-Rod group for the Board of Governors vote to prove that they have the capital, they're liquid enough to run the team. And I think having a name like Bloomberg certainly gives it some weight. He also invested in the purchase of the Baltimore Orioles earlier this year. So he clearly sees the value of sports franchises. And it's basically a risk-free investment, right? Because the value that they're suggesting to buy out Glenn, the extra $300 million, again, we know that that's worth double already. Like Bloomberg could buy him out, go sell it the next day for $600 million. So it's an easy investment for anybody who has the money to front it. He's going to get that money back if he wants to. But having someone with those deep of pockets that could help you out, pay that luxury bill, That's not too shabby. So I think it's an interesting chess match that we're watching right now. And I think that almost every move has been won by A-Rod and Lori. They're doing all the right things, like saying that they're going to build a new stadium by 2031. That's great. Getting a new sports network. That's great. Everyone's super frustrated with it. Like, they're saying all the right things right now and putting themselves in great position to not only assume ownership, but I think be very well liked once they take over. And then they just got to deliver on all these promises.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Sam. I go back to what I said. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. You guys have all hit the nail on the head. It is what it is. I got a chance to go. I was blessed with the opportunity to be in New York with Darius Butler. That's how, I know Darius Butler now. David Tyree, he was in our class as well. Ray Lewis. And so that's how I know David Tyree and was able to get all these guys on the show. But we spent time with Derek Jeter, Michael Bloomberg, another capital investment group. We were just learning about the business, and to sit and hear some of that stuff explains a lot to me. This guy is on a chessboard when it comes to business, and I'm pretty sure Glenn Taylor is as well. Like, that was the reason for why we are where we are, because he realized like 1.5 is not enough. Bloomberg is like, I can pay the luxury tax. If it's 80, 51 right now, but if it jumps to 75, 80 million, I got that. Like, this is the reason for it. J-Lo, you forced our hand. We had to go get Bloomberg now. Yes, Julia, J-Lo forced our hand. If she had stuck around and kept her little rich friends around, we'd have been fine. But she left, and she thought Ben Affleck was the answer to the future. And now we had to go out and get a giant. We had to get Tony Stark, the playboy billionaire philanthropist with a suit of iron. And his name is Michael Bloomberg. And he is going to come in and he's going to sit down with Glenn Taylor. Glenn Taylor is not going to scare him off with numbers. He's not going to scare his team off with anything financial, because this is his world. He lives in this world. And so whether he comes up with a package to help Glenn Taylor out down the road, say, hey, man, look, I'll still give you X amount %, or we'll do this. And they are going to make this very savvy so that everybody walks away from the table happy. And maybe just maybe Michael Bloomberg has enough money that KG will come back. Maybe he will give KG his own jet with KG on one side, Timberwolves on the other. It's like, KG, you get 30,000 miles on the jet a year. Just come. We got to use it for some of the games, but you can take it to wherever else. You want to go to Vegas, you want to go out to Miami, just come to Minnesota, get on the jet and go, or we'll send the jet to you, actually, like Kevin Hart said. But we got to talk about the Twins. We had a little fun with the Timberwolves. Now it's time for it's not doom and gloom, but it's gloom for sure. It's not doom, but what's going on with the Twins, man? Let's dive into it.
A season series sweep. That's what's going on with the Twins. 0-for-6 against the Yankees in a month, all within 30 days.
Did they pinch them? Did they at least pink? Did they scare them a little bit? No, Reggie? They weren't even scared? Oh, man.
No. The good news is, okay, so let's talk about what happened yesterday. Pablo Lopez had one of his worst games ever.
What's the deal with him? I mean, that's the biggest concern with this team, is that Pablo's been brutal.
Their ace is just not acing. Yesterday he gave up 7 runs, walked 6 guys.
Mm-hmm.
Rough stuff. The Twins put up 5 runs. So that is the positive that came out of yesterday's game, is that at least they could hit something. The other positive is that now it's over, right? And they can move on to what they got. The Pirates, the Rockies, and the A's next. So now's the time to get their get back. But it's just a tale as old as time. I said a tale almost as old as me. Correct me if I'm wrong. The Twins have not won a series they've only won 1 series against the Yankees in over 20 years.
One season series.
One season series?
Yeah. Yep. It's the record over the 22 years of futility. The record against the Yankees is 44-123.
Yeah. Rough. Well, and they've got Royce. They got Royce back. He wasn't there yesterday. Wasn't in the lineup yesterday. It was a scheduled day off, but he's back. So maybe they can get some hits out of him.
Yeah. What's the Twins' record against some of the league's best teams? They've been swept twice by the Yankees. They got swept by the Orioles. I mean, they are kind of a classic middling program right now. They scuffle against the elites. They beat up on the cellar dwellers, and they're kind of hovering in that third wild card spot. That feels like what they are right now. The offense, though, has got to wake up. They had one really good stretch, and the stuff around that stretch has been really futile offensively. So maybe Royce will inject something here, but it's a tough team to really get excited about, which is how I felt about them last year until the final month. They kind of just tread water, and they don't really inspire you too much, especially when they're not pitching.
So when you look at, other than that though, Reggie, like, again, I'm a big Tigers guy. I'm seeing the Cubs. I'm seeing jokes about the Cubs and how bad they are. The Twins aren't that bad, but what's going on with them?
Yeah, it's not good, man. They've had some stretches this year where you just don't know what this team is. Like the bats don't show up at times. The pitching hasn't been what you thought it was supposed to be, and I just think that they just, I don't know, they're like the definition of a mid team right now. Like they're just right there, in the middle. Not great, not terrible, but Cleveland is running away with this division, and the Royals are even better this year as well. And then your Tigers run, they're right behind. They're doing all right. So this is not one of those times where they can really like mess around, because they might mess around and find their way out of the postseason.
Yeah, I don't know if Livy Dunn's going to be at this Pittsburgh Pirates game, but they'll get a chance. Yes, Julia. Yep, I was going to say it. But we'll see if Paul Skeens takes the mound and Livy Dunn shows up to do a TikTok. But make sure you guys know SiriusXM is a proud partner of Locked On Sports Minnesota. Just download the SXM app, and you can get all of our shows, all of our content right there on your phone. Also, you can get the Twins hometown broadcast, and maybe you'll hear the Twins hometown broadcast make a comment about Livy Dunn and Paul Skeens. But I'm Ron Johnson. That's Sam Ekstrom. That's Julia Daniels. And that's Reggie Wilson. We didn't get a chance to talk about the NBA Finals today. We'll be back to talk about that because it might be over sooner than we thought. And the Celtics might be walking out the door with, 18, I think? Is it 18 or 19 they're going for right now?
18.
They might be walking out with championship 18 because they put the apps Porzingis. I don't know if you guys saw the new tweet video of Porzingis with the chair like he's in the wrestling ring, and he gave the chair to every Dallas Maverick, and that's what it felt like. I wasn't even entertained anymore at halftime. I stopped watching because I don't know if you guys know, congratulations to Oklahoma Sooners. They are now 4-time champions. They just beat Texas last night. It was a very, very, very good game, but in the last inning, poor Texas just couldn't get away from it. They loaded the bases numerous times, and like Oklahoma does, they cleared the bases. Oklahoma has now won 4 times. Congrats to Patty Gasso. I interviewed Jess Oakland. She was not happy with that, so make sure you guys tune in June 11th for that interview with Big Ten Player of the Year, Jess Oakland, because I'm excited about that one. But yeah, Oklahoma, you did it again. Hopefully it's not 5. If it's 5, we gotta look at the transfer portal, and Michael Bloomberg maybe can buy some Gophers, pick a couple players to come over here. But I'm Ron Johnson again. That's Reggie Wilson, Sam Ekstrom, and Julia Daniels. Thank you guys. Have a great weekend.